Why are we so caught up in this idea of being practical? It's like we think that we have to be practical, that we need to be rational and realistic about what we want. And yeah, it sounds reasonable. But when we do that, we just stop ourselves from being able to get everything we want. Because if we're focused on thinking practically, it's as if we're saying certain things are a possibility for us and certain things aren't. But the only reason that ever becomes true is by thinking that it is or isn't possible. It's not that there's a possible, probable thing that could happen and something that couldn't happen. We just make it that way by thinking of it that way. So I like to think that there's no reason to think practically. Because when we think practically, it sounds like we're being mature, professional adults, very logical, but all we're doing is telling ourselves what we're allowing ourselves to believe. It's like we're putting a limit onto the possibilities of everything that we could be and everything that we could create by trying to think practically. What I like to do instead is to think in possibility. Stop worrying about the probability of something because when we worry about probability, what we're really saying is based on what's happened in the past, here's what I think could actually happen for me in the future. And yeah, that might be true. But if you want to keep being the person you've been in the past, then keep making decisions that way. But if you're wanting to continue to grow and expand and become new versions of yourself, that means creating new possibilities for yourself and thus new probabilities for yourself. And the only way to do that is to get out of this calculation where you're trying to see how likely it is something will happen and instead just allowing yourself to understand the possibility that it could happen, that you could have it. Not because it's likely or probable or rational or realistic, that doesn't even matter. All of those are just terms, words we use to describe how much we believe something based on the evidence we're looking at. But the evidence we're looking at and the evidence we see is just based on what we're allowing ourselves to see, and we only see the evidence in front of us that supports our existing belief. So if we think something isn't practical, we won't be able to see any evidence for how it could be practical. All we'll think is this can't happen. It's just not feasible. It's not realistic. But it's only that way because we've made it that way by thinking of it in that way. So instead of trying to think about the probability, the practicalness of something happening for you, which relies on you to create the evidence, looking to the past and how things have been to calculate whether or not it could happen, instead of doing that, start from the place of possibility, of knowing that it is possible for it to happen. It could happen. It's possible. Think in terms of possibility and use that to fuel yourself forward. Because when you think of possibility and you allow it to be possible that it could happen for you, you create that opportunity for you. You make it probable and practical by thinking it's possible. You don't ever need to stay focused on the realisticness of it, on if it's rational or logical. Those are all things we've been taught probably by well meaning individuals, but all they do is keep us stuck and stop us from reaching everything we could be because we don't let ourselves see the possibility of it. So it's time to stop thinking in terms of probability and start living in possibility. Thank you.